Welcome, welcome, everyone. Thanks for waiting. I'm checking our emails. So Lisa, welcome. Nicole, great to have you. Shannon, I just sent over those videos. The one thing I would ask is while you're waiting, please go to chat. And if you would just write down today the mindset that you feel keeps you back from being fully present with reinventing. Whenever you've tried to be a bigger, stronger version of yourself or change your career, anytime that you've been involved in transformation like that, what's the mindset that tries to get you stuck? What is the thought pattern or the feelings? Go to chat and share that with us today. So we kind of have that as our frame of reference, and it might set up our meeting today. So do that, and I'm going to go run out to email and get what we're looking for. Oh. Ooh, here they're coming in. Fearful, self-doubt, critical. Yeah. Nicole, speak to even just one of those.
You know, the critic, and we're actually going to be talking about that today. This is the voice of perfectionism that can shut us down so quickly.
Okay, that's a good name for it because we can all relate. I can see heads nodding. All right, who's next? Ooh, yeah, you don't have the experience, you don't have the knowledge to do this, Lisa. Both are critical to make it shift and to feel like you can trust yourself, right? And I'm hearing that you don't trust that you know enough or that you don't have enough experience. Yeah. Okay. Anything you want to say more to that, Lisa? Okay. All right. I think it's clear. Shannon, what will success, what do you desire? What does it look like? And there's the fear of the unknown, feel unequipped. You can probably relate to what Lisa said. Anything on yours that you want to comment on, Jamie? Or excuse me, Shannon and Jamie and Jen? What we're doing is naming the mindset that wants to hold you back from reinventing or going to that bigger, brighter, bolder self of yours. So you can put it in the chat if you'd like. Shannon, Judge, share more about this.
It just sounds so like intellectually, it sounds so like unbelievable, but I think it is fear of success.
Yeah, I think it is fear of having what you really want. You can, yes, 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 and yes.
And
Yes.
maybe it's not all black and white, right? Maybe there are levels of this success, and it's not a spot that you one day land.
It's not. Nope. Nope. Yeah. So if you're just coming on, we're going to chat and we're sharing, being vulnerable and sharing what does the mindset say that holds us back from that big, bold version that we're trying to reinvent to. And I'll share mine. I've reinvented several times. And the first time where I was working on reinventing from being a school teacher to getting a job in business in corporate America, I felt like I had no skills that transferred. And I got hired by Franklin Covey because the vice president of the innovation group, which is where I got hired, he was a former school teacher. And he was like, Lynn, you know how to manage people. You know how to manage their children. You know how to manage your lesson plans. You've written an article. You've been published. We need a writer. You know how to write instructional design. We need all of those. And I was like, oh my goodness, who would have thought that Franklin Covey needed a lowly sixth grade teacher to come in and help develop their curriculum? I was like blown away. So there are, for every time that we reinvent, there is a mindset that can get in our way. And we're going to talk a little bit about this today with Nicole, who's here with us. We're going to go right to mindsets. We're going to let Shannon Judge, go ahead.
I just want you to remind you to record.
Yes, I am recording.
Oh, you are? I'm sorry.
Thank you. No, it's good. It was coming on before you came on. So you should have had to push that. So it is recording. Thank you for that, Shannon. So the mindset's something that we're talking about, and I want to invite everybody that's here. I'm going to put the link in. We have an unusual thing happening on October 8th. I think it's 3:00 p.m. Mountain Time and 5:00 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be talking with Dr. Alethea Tucker, and she is coming in as a guest because she and I found each other. She actually reached out and said, what are you doing on Reinvention? Because I think I want to come through your course. And she was like, but I have to tell you, I have ulterior motives because I coach on Reinvention. So we've become friends and we talk about reinvention. And she's going to be our guest, and we're going to discuss her mindset of how she had to change to reinvent. And I'm also going to bring in some immunity to change. These mindsets that you're talking about today, that you have written in the chat, are part of your immune system that keep you from changing. And I think that's one reason why Shannon Judge curated this and asked Nicole to be our speaker today. So knowing that other webinar is part of our Courageous Growth seminar, it's free. We cover a variety of topics on this webinar that you're attending today, which is our reinvention. It's always around reinvention, but this is one of those odd times that we'll have 2 in 1 month on reinvention. So if you're here today, that other webinar will be really inviting for you, and hopefully really insightful. So Shannon Judge, do you want to say anything to set up Nicole before she starts? Do you have, give us your setup.
Sure. I just wanted to, for people who are watching on the replay and people who might be joining for the first time, we've done a series of 3. This is our 3rd in a series of finding support during reinvention. And Nicole Lovejoy, licensed clinical social worker, has come on to help us understand one of the concepts we see repeatedly in reinvention that we haven't dived into thoroughly until this series is that oftentimes when we reinvent, we look to those closest to us to be our biggest support. And it doesn't always happen that way. And I think sometimes as reinventors, we're left floundering a bit or wondering, why doesn't my spouse, my friend, my family support me in the ways that I need right now? And so Nicole has helped us understand where that might come from. Sometimes our reinvention is a mirror to others. In the 2nd installment of this series, we had Nicole help us understand what pattern mapping is, where we move through a pattern and we understand what parts of us get activated Nicole can describe this better, but we can look through an individual situation, see how we respond and what comes up, whether it's archetypes, whether it's our saboteur, whether it's ideas and fears from the past, traumas, all these things, and all these things that can possibly hold us back when we reinvent. So in this series, as a 3rd part, Nicole thought it would be fabulous to come on and really help us lean into empowering ourselves. And by doing the work of understanding our archetypes, their light sides and their shadow sides, we can be our own best support in reinvention to not get stuck, to continue moving forward, because this is a courageous path that requires a lot of us. It can be scary at times. So Nicole's going to help us with that today.
Thank you. All right, Nicole. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And before you finish, I'm going to put in chat a theme song for this. It's Nikita, Carmen, I think is her last name. And the song is Own Roses. If you've heard it on Spotify or some other place where you grow your own rose garden, I'm going to put it in the link. It could be your theme song after listening to what Nicole has to tell us today. So let's go.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for allowing me to be here and connecting with you all. I'm excited to be back and kind of jump off from where we landed at our last career reinvention, which was pattern mapping. And pattern mapping is a process that I use with my clients to really deep dive into understanding our thoughts, our behaviors, and how we feel in response to certain triggers that we become habituated to. And that's what we did with Shannon last session, was really delve into her pattern that got triggered with a loved one that can sometimes stop her in her tracks. And we all have these patterns. And really where that led us is to understanding these different parts that live within us. And these different parts are what I refer to, and there's been a lot of work outside of on archetypal patterns. And so that's where we're going to jump off today, is really diving into understanding archetypal patterns and how they might impact us when we're reinventing. And just curious, out of show of hands, who here has any kind of familiarity or have heard the term archetypal patterns? Yeah, a few of you. Awesome. So archetypal patterns, this concept have actually been around since the time of Plato. And back in those days, it was looked at as what was called forms, but it's ways to describe patterns of people. And then Carl Jung kind of took off and did more with this work and these concepts. And then Carolyn Meese, who I have studied since I was in my early 20s and done a deep dive into her work. And that's what has really inspired me working and learning how to work with archetypal patterns with my clients, are really identifying these. And what she has identified is that we have 12 archetypal patterns that we incarnate with here on Earth to work with. And these patterns, we have 4 patterns that we all come in with, and she's identified these as the victim, hold on, I have them written down, the child, the victim, the prostitute, and the saboteur. And you can do a deep dive into her work. I really would encourage you to go to her website, because she has so brilliantly been able to help people identify their 12 archetypal patterns. And some examples of these patterns, and this is kind of how we sum people up, how we assumptions that we make, or judgment, like snap judgments that we make. We might look at somebody and say, they're a hipster, or they're the jock, or the entrepreneur. A common one might be the artist. A teacher is an archetypal pattern. It's one that I embody. It's one that Lynn embodies. The rebel is an archetypal pattern. And that pattern is actually a really important pattern to have here on Earth, because the rebel will push up against outdated systems that need to evolve and change and grow. So an example of somebody who embodies the rebel archetype would be Martin Luther King or Gandhi. These people that are here that are the change agents, right? The judge archetype. You know, we need judges. We need judges in our judicial system. And then we can see if somebody has a judge that is rooted in fear, how that can look too, right? Really harsh and critical and black and white thinking. And so with all of these archetypal patterns, there's 2 ways that they get expressed. They get expressed through love, and they get expressed through fear. And this would be the shadow side of these archetypal patterns. And so, like, if we take the rebel, for example, we can see when it's expressed through love, the powerful movement that Martin Luther King brought to our country, our world. And then we can see if somebody is in the shadow aspect of that, how it might look like, you know, somebody bucking up against maybe authority that is good authority, and might land them in prison or jail. And so with all of these archetypal patterns, there are these different aspects and different expressions of them. So in my work with clients, I have identified about 4 or 5 archetypal patterns that always show up, and that I have found that when we learn to recognize these within ourselves and work with them, that's when we can really start to make the changes and align with our truth, align with our purpose, align with reinventing and stepping into these career paths that we're wanting to. And so learning how to work with these aspects of ourselves can be really powerful and important. And so I love that we're bringing this topic into career reinvention, because I think it's so, so important. And so my thoughts for today, I'm going to share with you some PowerPoint slides and talk to you a little bit about the archetypal patterns that I'm seeing with in the clients that I work with, in myself, and then doing a short guided meditation. And if you're driving and you can't meditate, that's fine. It will be available on the replay. But a meditation to really take you in and really get intimately familiar with these different aspects of yourself, and know how, you know, how do they show up in my body? What is the nature of my thoughts when I'm in my critic, when I'm in the wounded child, when how does it feel in my body? What emotions do I have, right? And how can I really stay rooted in a place of love versus fear? And so that's what we're going to be diving into today. Does anybody have any questions before I pull up my PowerPoint that I've prepared? Okay.
You should be able to share it. Did you see the invite? Okay.
Okay. So let's see here. Okay. Okay. Hold on. Okay. I am having some technical, okay, here we go. Okay, so the patterns that I have been able to identify that live within all of us, we have our adult self, we have a wise part of us, we all have a critic, and when it's rooted in love, it can become the inner coach. We all have a saboteur that lives inside of us, and when that is rooted in love, the expression of that is the lighthouse. I haven't met anybody who doesn't have a wounded child, and then also an inner child, which is our source of creativity, fun, and play. And so these are the archetypal patterns that I've identified in the work that I've done and that we're going to be doing a deep dive into today. So the adult self, this is the part of us that carries all of our experiences, all of our knowledge that we have gone through up to this part, or up to this point in our life. This is the part of us that's out there taking care of business, that's adulting, that is managing our household, going to work, showing up for our children if we have kids. This is this part of it. It's our intellect. It's all of our knowledge and our years of experience that we have to pull from to this point today. We all have a wise part of us that lives inside of us. This part of us is our internal guidance system. It's our intuition. It's our knowing. It's a very, very empathic part of us. It's the part of us that can hold love for ourselves, for others, for humanity. It's rooted in love and compassion. I believe that this is the part of us that is connected to spirit, our higher power, and that also is connected to humanity. I haven't met anybody yet who doesn't have a really loud critic. This critic, and when we are in our critic is rooted in fear. This is our negative self-talk. It can be this voice that is critical of ourselves. It can also then get projected onto other people and be really critical of others. One of the archetypal patterns that where this can really be amplified is the judge. We talked a little bit about that earlier. This is the part of us that can be rooted in perfectionism, right? This is also the part of us that can see things in very polarized thinking, black or white, thinking all or nothing. And this is the part of us that masks a more vulnerable, wounded part. This is the critic is usually a protector part to our wounded child. The critic, when it's coming from a place of love, when it's rooted in love, it becomes the coach. And when we are rooted in this place of love and we are in our coach archetype, we're able to be in a place of curiosity instead of judgment. We're able to recognize progress and not get caught up in perfectionism. We can stand in a place of compassion for ourselves and others. When we're in the critic, we have a mindset of encouragement instead of discouragement. And the critic is able to see our strengths and have compassion and empathy for our weaknesses, for ourselves and for others. This is the part of us that can recognize our humanity. You know, as human beings here, we are all flawed. We all have a shadow side. We all have these character defects. And so being able to really see that through the lens of love. Okay, the saboteur. This is the part of us that is really trying to keep us safe. It's coming from a place of fear, and it is trying to head it off at the pass, anything bad that could potentially happen. And so this is part of us that's really afraid of getting hurt. And so what can happen when our saboteur is present is it will sabotage our forward movement. We'll procrastinate, we'll feel stuck. We will be afraid of making the wrong decision, or that we're not good enough to make the decision that we want to make. Our decision making can get caught up in people pleasing instead of standing in your truth and authenticity. And our saboteur can keep us trapped in unhealthy relationships and unhealthy work environments, unhealthy situations. And so it's really important to be aware and recognize when my saboteur is front and center. But here's the thing, is when the saboteur is rooted in love, it becomes our lighthouse. this is the part of us that can illuminate the path forward, that can focus on one step at a time and our next right action step. It holds our vision of our goals, our hopes, and our dreams. This is the part of us that is calling us to reinvent and that can shine the light on the steps to take to land in that new career, that new path. This is a part of us that is action oriented, and it comes from a place of really honoring our differences and our authentic self and our power. We all have a child that's living inside of us. And the inner child, when it's rooted in love, it's playful, it's fun, it's our joy, it's our creativity, it's our curiosity. It's our ability to just land in the present moment in a place of joy and excitement. And so it's a really important part of us. And I think sometimes our inner child can get lost as adults. And then we all have a wounded child. I haven't met anybody yet who doesn't have a wounded little one living inside of us. This is the part of us that's carrying our trauma, that it has fear of abandonment. We can dissociate when our wounded child is present. We can overreact to situations when our wounded child is present. Our emotional responses can become disproportionate to what's happening in the present moment, right? Because we're responding from our past trauma, typically from a wounded place, from a younger place. So these are all signs that you can look for to see, is my wounded child present? The emotional responses can be very immature and young. The responses that we see when we're in our wounded child is a freeze response, because if you think about it, children, when they're in dangerous situations with adults, they can't fight and they can't run away. So their nervous systems, their protective response is to freeze, to dissociate, or to fawn. And we've talked about fawning through this series, which is people pleasing, acquiesce, attuning. I'm going to attune and figure out, what is the safe move for me to make? How can I make these people around me happy so I feel safe? So these are the things that we see when the wounded child is present.
Nicole, will you stay there for just a second and address number 6? Because the other things made sense, but holding our trauma, what do you mean when you say hold our trauma?
So the trauma, and this would be, when I say hold our trauma, it holds our trauma from childhood. This is the part of us, it's a little girl or boy that's living inside of us that is holding the trauma from our childhood that can get activated. And so so this would be a good analogy to use, that when we're in our adult consciousness and there is a trauma trigger, something that activates our wounded child, what happens is time collapses and we are no longer in the present moment. And now we are back into a younger part of us that is experiencing that trauma.
Okay, so it's
Does
like,
that make sense?
so what I'm getting is an image of maybe a child holding on to their blankie.
Yes.
And as an adult, we're holding on to the trauma, like rather than releasing it or healing it, we're holding it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And Akbar, do you want to come off and ask your question really quick?
Oh, hi, Nicole. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
My question is regarding what Lynn just said about trauma from childhood. Some people have complex PTSD from childhood, and every time they have a situation that kind of brings that back, they get triggered. How does one move forward from there? That's my question.
Yeah, that's such an important question. And so when I'm working with somebody and doing trauma work, the work that I will do as somebody is to introduce these patterns that I'm introducing to you today. Because here's the thing, is once we can recognize when the wounded child is present, then what we do is we come in with these other parts of ourself. We come in with our adult self, our wise self, our coach, and we reparent ourselves and help heal the trauma that happened to us as a younger child. Now, when we are dealing with complex PTSD, my recommendation would be to get a team, to get some people that can help really heal and integrate that trauma. So working with a therapist, doing some somatic work, maybe doing some group therapy, but really, bringing in a team that can help you heal and process and move through the trauma.
Great. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Any other questions or comments? No, okay. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to take you through a guided meditation and help you all get familiar with these different aspects, these different archetypal patterns and that live within inside of you. So I'm going to stop screen share and come back to everybody. And does anybody have any questions before we begin?
No, if this is one place where if you want to go off the screen, and we appreciate those of you who are coming on the screen. If you feel more like you could get into the visualization, go ahead and go off the screen for just this part. So you can put your head down, close your eyes, and feel safe.
Yes. Yes. Please get comfy. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, Lynn, for prompting that. Okay, how I like to begin any meditation. And Lynn, we have 45 minutes total.
Yeah, we do. And so do you have time? I mean, we can go up to 12:50 if you need to.
Okay, all right. So before I begin any meditation, I like to, and we've all been sitting and kind of listening for a minute. So I like to just activate the body's energy, our chi, our life force. So go ahead and just shake out your arms, maybe kind of get settled in your space, maybe do some stretches. And what you're doing is you're really just preparing the body to sit still and go within. Okay. And so I'm going to do a guided meditation. At any time you can open your eyes and take care of yourself. And so I'm just going to facilitate, and I really encourage you all to take care of yourself in whatever way that looks. So go ahead and start by taking a deep cleansing breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And on this exhale, just allowing your shoulders to drop away from your ears, allowing your belly to release and let go. And allowing your arms to hang heavy and loose and limp at your side. And in this moment, giving your body permission to relax, to release and let go. And just taking a moment to anchor into your breath. And feeling the sensation of the air entering the body through the nostrils. And noticing how it feels as you exhale and release. And I invite you to just allow the body to release into a deeper state of peace and calmness with every exhale. And in your mind's eye, connecting to a beautiful place in nature, wherever the mind wants to go today. And you can look down and see your feet rooted on the earth. And notice that it is the perfect temperature for you. And taking in this beautiful place in nature through all the senses. What colors, what sounds, what does it feel like to connect to this beautiful place? And notice how it feels in the body when you connect to this peaceful place. You may notice that it drops you into a deeper state of peace and relaxation now. And I am going to invite you to call forth the wise part of you. And invite this part of you to step out from you and turn towards you and face you. Just connecting to wisdom, your internal wisdom. What do you notice? What do you experience when you connect into wisdom? Does wisdom have any messages or guidance for you with what's going on in your life today? Asking wisdom to show you, how does it feel in my body when I am grounded and rooted in wisdom, my wise self? Maybe a lightness, an openness, tingling sensation. And thanking wisdom for showing you and teaching you and helping you really embody and experience this part that lives within all of us. And now inviting the coach. This part that can so easily show up for others, but sometimes we have a hard time bringing that coach into ourselves. This loving aspect. What does the coach feel like? Coach that can hold leadership skills, encouragement, thoughts of loving kindness. What messages does the coach have for you today? And now calling forth the critic, the shadow side of the coach. How does that shift in your body? Is there a contraction? What are the nature of your thoughts? What feelings arise when the critic is present? How does it feel different than the coach? What is the critic needing to be more rooted into love? Just for a moment, playing with these two aspects of this archetypal pattern. Noticing the coach and the critic and the shifts that that brings mind, body, and soul. And thanking these parts of you. And now inviting out and allowing the saboteur to emerge. This part of us that is really just trying to keep us safe, but that can also shut us down in our success and in our reinventing. What do you notice when you are rooted in your saboteur? How does that feel? What does this part of you look like? What fears does the saboteur hold? And now allowing the lighthouse to emerge. This is our light, our life force, our power that can illuminate our path forward. Allowing this light and this strong force that holds our hopes, our vision, our life purpose, our reinvention, and illuminates our next right action step. And what does this part of you want you to know? What is it showing you? What are the next right action steps? How does it feel to be embodied in your light. I'm thanking this archetypal pattern for showing you and teaching you today. And now calling forth that innocent child that lives inside of you, that holds our joy and our play and our curiosity. And how old is your child today? What would they like you to know? How can you bring forth more traits that the inner child has, this curiosity, play, fun, adventure? Now calling forth the adult part of you that is here today, that has all your years and knowledge and vast, vast library of experiences to draw from. Every life experience that you've gone through, you've learned, you've gained valuable lessons. This part of you that holds responsible choices. What does it feel like to be in your adult consciousness? Now that you have this team in front of you, the wise part of you, the coach, the lighthouse, the inner child, the adult, you see these aspects of love. We're going to call forward your wounded child. Just allowing this part of you that may hold wounds or hurts. And allow this part of you to be embraced by your team. How old is your wounded child? What would your wounded child like you to know? What can you do to provide safety and love to this part of you? What kind of support does the wounded child looking for? What emotions and thoughts come up when I'm in my wounded child? And having the wounded child turn to all these parts and ask for what it's needing. And then what would these parts want the wounded child to know? And as you are connecting to this team, all these different aspects of self, and you call to mind this path that you're on of reinvention, what wisdom, knowledge, answers are available to me right here and now as I connect into these different aspects of myself? And really, it is to have love and compassion for all the parts. because the saboteur and the critic and the wounded child are holding fear. And how we heal fear is to root into love. But when we are in a space of love, fear disappears. They cannot coincide together. And now allowing these parts to integrate back into the body in a very holistic way, anchoring into your feet. And once again, looking down at the earth and connecting into your peaceful place. And taking a deep cleansing breath. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back to this space. Just taking a moment to land, be back here with us. All right. I would love to hear how that experience was for you guys. If there's anybody that would be willing to share, if there was any parts that were really inspiring or helpful. Yes, Akbar, please.
The thing with my one, I don't know, I feel really conflicted. My coach came through,
Yes.
the other stuff didn't, and it felt like it was telling me like I'm codependent and I have betrayal wounds that need to be resolved, but it didn't tell me anything about what steps to take in terms of having that career reinvention or any ideas came through. But it's just that's what came through. All the other stuff didn't come through. I don't know about the inner child stuff, but that's the only thing that sort of came through with regards to this.
I'm so glad you shared this, because that's actually, it's very common, right? That we maybe are not fully in touch with these different parts, and it's all information. And I love the part of you that can come forward, that is coming forward and stepping forward, is this coach that lives inside of you. And it sounds like and even when connecting to the coach, it sounds like you got some really important information about, you said some codependency patterns that you may have. And there was one other thing that you identified.
Betrayal wounds. Injustice and betrayal wounds. That's what
Yes.
said.
I love that, like how powerful that's what came through, and to really be okay and trust what came through, and to know that it's okay that these other aspects haven't fully come on board yet. That I would encourage you all, you'll have this available to replay to go back and just play with these different parts.
Right.
You know, maybe you could take the coach in and just start with the coach and just ask questions with the coach.
How, because sometimes it's difficult to kind of unwind and sort of, I find it difficult to unwind and relax when I'm doing a meditation, because my mind's always racing. I'm thinking about time. I'm thinking about a lot of things. So today I was able to do it, but I can't do it every day or every once a week or something like that. I find it very difficult. So what suggestion would you, in terms of calming the mind and sort of being able to get into a relaxed state, what guidance could you give for that, please?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say that that's so normal. That's what you're describing is the monkey mind, right? That part of us that is really just loud and nonstop and going and going. And meditation is a practice of developing attention to the present moment, attention to the breath. And it's really a matter of practicing. And a mindfulness practice would be a really great place for you to start, of just bringing your awareness into the breath, into maybe a mantra, and just continuing to do that, even if it's for a few minutes a day.
Right, great. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Thank you for the questions. Yeah, great questions. Who else would like to share?
Well, I know that I got really into it, and so much so that I went to a place where my grandfather and I used to ride horses up in the mountains. It was one of my favorite places to go, and I noticed how cool it was and how much, if I were to visit today, it's hotter. So I noticed climate change immediately. And it made me
Right.
realize I was really in that spot. And I just appreciate that you could get us there, Nicole, and that each person has taken the message, and would encourage everyone to write down before you leave this session today, what is the main message you got? So you have a record of it. You can carry it with you. You don't have to come back necessarily and listen, but you can come back. Shannon's going to be back from Hawaii next week, and she'll send out the email. But note today where you are, so that in that gap between now and then, you can take the message that has been facilitated so beautifully and eloquently through Nicole's work.
Thank you. Yeah. Is there any other final thoughts or questions anybody would be willing to share? Okay, looks like this feels complete for people.
Yeah. Boy, Shannon, Judge, do you have anything you want to say? Did this meet the mark that you were hoping it would?
Yes, I think it was lovely for today. Thank you, Nicole, for being here. And I think it's good practice, and even to go back to the replay for people who are here and who are just joining us on the replay, and just kind of replay this for yourself and maybe move through the meditation a couple of times. I think we access different things each time.
Yeah, well said. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Take,
Lovely.
Jen, go ahead.
I really appreciate the way that you walk through the meditations and your work, actually. So I know with the pattern mapping, I got a lot of benefit from it. So I'm definitely gonna tap into this one again. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Jen. I appreciate hearing that. Thank you. I'm glad you.
Really
Yeah.
good.
Well, it's been an honor to share space with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nicole. A lot of healing, a lot of transformation. And I will just say that when we reinvent, it's not just the professional track we look at. We have to look at the whole person, because you bring so much of your history with you. And I work daily with reinventors, and the number one thing that we have to shift is the mindset, the way you hold yourself, the things that are holding you back. We have to address those, because behavior changes do not make the transformation happen. It's the mindset change that makes the transformation happen. So thank you, Nicole and Shannon Judge, for creating this for us today. Just a reminder, next week on the 8th, there is a Courageous Growth webinar. Find the link. If you're not signed up, you may want to come to that, especially if reinvention's on your mind, because our Courageous Growth is going to spill over into the reinvention topic. And then there is Nikita's song about growing your own rose garden and being the adult archetype, from the exercise that we did today with Nicole. So many gifts from today. Recording will come out next week. Thank you for joining us, and wait to see you guys next month. So goodbye, and thank you for being with us. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.